So here's a pretty common scenario. You've been playing bass a little while and you're just starting to get into improvising, creating your own bass lines and so on, and you know one scale maybe. Most likely it's the minor pentatonic scale. It could even be this scale, the E minor pentatonic scale. And you've learnt it there potentially, or maybe up there, and it's one octave, but it's very positional and you feel maybe a little bit stifled and you want to open it up a little bit more. What I'm going to do today is show you a few approaches I take to not only make that scale a little more fluid and moving up and down the fretboard, giving you loads more options, but also a couple of notes you can add to it here and there to make it obviously not a minor pentatonic anymore, turn it into other scales that give it a bit more flavour. Okay, so let's get started. So I've just played that E minor pentatonic open position, just going up and down one octave. How about we do one thing first of all to make it a little more interesting? Obviously it's less positional, but it's going to open up the fretboard a little bit more. So how about we play it in this shifting method? Okay, exactly the same notes, but only utilising two strings and actually just shifting at convenient points for your hands. So what I was doing there was open E, 3rd fret, then shifting up to the 5th fret on the E to play the A, and then the B here, and then D, and then back up to E. Or if you're thinking in numbers, root, minor 3rd, 4th, 5th, flat 7, root again. So what I'm calling that is a 3 and 2 shifting pattern. I'm calling it that because you play 3 notes on one string, 2 notes on the next, and then repeat that pattern. So then on the next string it's 3, and then on the next string it's 2. And it's a nice easy shape to remember. So how does that go? Well, ignoring the open string, it's 3rd, 5th, 7th, 5th, 7th on the E, then the A string, and then you go 3 notes on the D string, and it starts here on the 5th fret, you go up 5, 7, 9, 7, 9. If you're thinking numbers, it's flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, root. Let's play that whole scale and you'll see exactly how it all takes shape. So, root, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, root again, and this is where the pattern repeats, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, root. Okay, what I've done now is I've set up a little backing track and we're going to have a little jam along using that scale. I might go a little bit higher, just, you know, for the sake of keeping it interesting, but this is going to be our main sort of playground. So there you have it. Already, instead of just being stuck in this position, already we've got so much more of the fretboard to play with. And if you get used to this pattern, you can just start to see where it starts to repeat and so on, and then get a little more comfortable going up and down the fretboard. Okay, so that's my approach to a 2-octave minor pentatonic scale, starting on E and moving up in a 3 and 2 shifting pattern. But what if we want to make that a little more interesting by adding just one more note? I'm going to show you 3 examples of added tones that we can add to make it a little more spicy. So let's start with what you'll likely come across as the next scale you tend to learn, the blues scale, the minor blues scale. That means we add the flat 5, also known as the blue note, and that's going to be a B flat. That one there, flat 5, B flat, 6th fret on the E string, and then it repeats there, 8th fret on the D string. And already you've got a little more fun, you know, something a little more colourful, a little more angular and interesting. Let's hear how that sounds. Yeah, already loads more interesting, and yeah, in fact in the previous playthrough with just the minor pentatonic, I just did that because it comes so naturally after a little while. But yeah, already you've got loads more to play with. You've got just a little bit of chromatic motion, which is always interesting when you're creating lines. It's just, you know, I don't know, it just adds a bit more sort of feel and emotion, I'd say. But yeah, that's the E minor blues. But there are other scales. Let's have a look at another one, which I'd say is my personal favourite. It's called the E minor hexatonic. Okay, we're going to take away the blue note, the flat 5 from the E minor blues for now, and we're going to add in the 2nd degree of the minor scale and add it to this minor pentatonic. So it's still a hexatonic scale. We're not going for the full 7-note minor scale. We're just adding one more note, and it's this one here, F sharp in the key of E. So there it is again. So that's the 2nd fret on the E, the 2nd degree, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, root, 2nd, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and root again. And you could go higher if you like. Where you shift can be a bit of an awkward thing. So what I like to do is 1st and 2nd finger, and then shift onto my 1st. Okay, let's give that one a go. So already loads more interesting. I love that 2nd degree of the scale. It adds a real ambiguity to your lines, and it kind of just opens things up a little bit more, if that makes sense. What I played using this particular scale was a B minor triad. And that's a really good tip for if you're soloing in the key of, say, an E minor, that's your root. If you base everything around the 5th, you get some really interesting sounds. And yeah, it makes it a little less obvious. And that's a real tricky thing with bass players. We're so used to playing root notes that improvising can be a real hurdle. But that's just a quick tip for really getting yourself, you know, into a different frame of mind. So that's 2 different hexatonic scales, the minor blues scale and the minor hexatonic. We can also add one other note. In this particular example, at least, it doesn't always work. But to give it a slightly different flavour, if you're aware of the Dorian mode, this is going to sound familiar to you, right? So I'm calling this one the Dorian hexatonic because it's not the full mode, it's still a 6-note scale, right? So taking away the 2nd degree and the flat 5, we're just starting with our minor pentatonic again, right? But this time we're going to add a natural 6. Here it is. 4th fret on the A string there, and 6th fret on the G. Okay, so that gives it a Dorian feel. Let's hear how that sounds. Okay, yeah, another really flavourful one. This one adds an element called a tritone, if you want to use it, which is, yeah, just really fun when it comes to improvising. And yeah, there is one in the blues scale as well, but I think this one's a little more usable. So say you start adding in those added notes individually in those hexatonic scales. What if we start to just bring them all into play at varying points when we're improvising? That can get really, really fun. And then also break the rules a little bit, add in some more chromatic movement and so on. Let's give that a go. So yeah, a little example of once you're comfortable with all three hexatonic scales, take elements from all of them, and then it's not quite such a daunting thing to be able to bring in some added flavour to the humble minor pentatonic. Anyway, I've been Hugh Foster on the bass. That just about covers it from me today. If you enjoyed that lesson and you want to get hold of the PDF with the scales on it and that backing track I was just playing to, please head over to my Patreon and consider becoming a supporter. All right, nice one. See you next time.